My new job at an Islamic school was met with reserved enthusiasm of my Christian family. "Just make sure you don't convert," my father-in-law said when he found out. My mother-in-law was intrigued by the idea of being close to something exotic. I struggled with what I wanted to work on in this school. Although I was going to have my own classroom, I wanted to desperately. I would only be part-time and I was required to dress in the Islamic way, including covering my hair. This whole concept was strange for me. I debated with myself for a day or two until I decided to accept my first task at this school. She was open and determined that it would be a learning experience for me. And it was. On the first day, the new, non-Muslim teachers received a scarf class taught by a sister in the teacher's room. We laughed while trying different styles. I still remember that very relaxed morning, and it was during that event that I realized that I always thought Muslims were austere and serious. It's strange how we maintain certain stereotypes of people without even knowing them. Less a mistake. During my first year I learned many things. I was extremely impressed to see that my students knew my religion, Christianity, better than I did. How did they know the stories? My students always asked me about my beliefs and made me think. What did I really believe? I was raised as a Catholic, and as an adult, I began to deflect. I didn't know what made me uncomfortable, but something wasn't sure. I ventured a little bit into a kind of New Age Christianity, but that it didn't suit me either. I just knew I wanted to connect with God. I didn't want my religion to be something I had to be considered a good person in the eyes of my relatives, such as this was the case with my husband. I wanted to feel it in my heart. Looking back, I was lost, but I didn't know it at the time. Children are children, and my Muslim students were not different. They left their books in the classroom, instead of taking them to school. House. That was a blessing in disguise, since I started to read these books after class. Much of what they contained made sense. Towards help further, a sister and brother were more than happy to respond to all my questions, and I had many. We discussed Islam and religion for hours. It was very intellectually stimulating and I was excited about it. I felt that I had found what I was looking for. There was a peace that spread slowly in my heart. Around this time I began to read the Quran at home. My husband at the time, I have since divorced him, did not like my interest in Islam. When I read the Quran, I did it in private and without his knowledge. At first I felt like I was doing something blasphemous. I remember being very afraid that God would be angry with me. I thought to myself, how could any other book besides the Bible come from God? I tried to listen to my heart and he told me to read. Some of the passages from the Quran seemed to have been written just for me. Many times I caught myself sitting and crying. I felt at peace, but confused. There was something holding me back from accept it with all our heart. After months of reading, conversations with people and a lot of introspection, an event happened that I consider to be the determining factor to become a Muslim. I was standing in my son's room trying to pray. I had a book on Islam open in the How to Pray section. I was there in conflict with myself. I was not used to praying directly to God. I was taught to pray to Jesus, who would then tell God my supplication, or something like that. I was very afraid that I was doing something wrong. I didn't want Jesus to be angry with me. That I was as if struck by a tidal wave. I really thought that God, would you be angry with me for wanting to get closer to him? I really believed that Jesus would be angry with me for trying to draw me closer to God? That's not it. What does he want me to do? God knows my intention. To this day I believe it was God speaking to me. So powerful were the feeling and the voice inside my head. What did he have to fear? How could I not convert to Islam? At that moment I started crying. That was what I needed to hear. I knew at the time that I had to convert to Islam. I felt it was right and nothing else mattered. After doing my Shahada in the presence of the whole school, he was a new person. There was no longer that, where I belong and what I believe, feeling. He left. I knew I had made the right decision. I have never been so close to God as I have since I became a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, I'm very lucky.